and the mother figure that is so vibrant and vital in our lives. Welcome to our family that is joining us virtually. And again, welcome to you are here with us in the center this morning on Mother's Day. May theme, which is living everyday wonder with the emphasis on emotions. And our talk for today is the fear factor. And I added a subtitle, A Mother's Love, in celebration of Mother's Day. And so again, happy Mother's Day to all mothers and to all who are mother's figures. And I expand this definition of mother to include not only our biological birth mother, but a person who we closely related to as the mother, that person who may have provided the nurturing and the guidance and support and training us as we were growing and developing and helping to mold the vibrant individuals that we have become. And so I expand that to include those who may have stepped in as a grandmother, taking on that role of mother, a foster mom, a sibling, perhaps an older sister or a younger sister, whichever the case may be, an auntie, a cousin, a close family member, anyone who stepped into that role, including the men who stepped into that role when their mother was not there, or perhaps the mother died shortly after birth or at an early age. We just recognize everyone who has had a part in guiding and molding us. And so today we're going to do something a little different in our service. I've included some interactive experiences. And for those of you who are here in the center, you have paper and pencil on your seats. And I invite those who are joining us in the Zoom room to interactively place something in the comments when the prompt is given. And I'm recording this, we're recording this as part of our Facebook and YouTube presentation so that our viewers on Facebook and YouTube can participate in the interactive experience when they are watching this service at some point in the future. Fear is one of our most common emotions. And our relationship with fear can either hold us hostage to it, or we can treat it as an opportunity to be courageous. Observe the fearlessness of a mother protecting their offspring from harm, and witness the amazing strength that is demonstrated while they are in that protector mode. I love the examples that nature offers to us. It is birthing season in our rich diversity of wildlife. Foxes are birthing their kits. Deer are birthing their fawns. And even rattlesnakes are birthing their little snakelets. And I read recently that the little snakelets are fearless defenders on their own, almost from birth. And so there is an abundance of warnings and caution signs that serve as a reminder to us to be careful on our walking trails and other places where this new life may be spawning itself. Not approaching a baby who appears to be abandoned. You know, humans sometimes want to jump into that protector mode ourselves and go in and save this little baby. But I offer this as a reminder. Each one of these species' mother is known to be a fierce protector of their babies. And I remember once was up at Yosemite, and we had been, I think we'd gone into the village to do some shopping or something, pick something up. And on the way back to the place we were staying, we were driving through the meadow. And I noticed that cars were parked and the road was partially blocked and it was difficult to navigate through. And so I'm saying, what is going on? What is all of this distraction that is going on? And off to my left, there was a bear cub that was out in the meadow. And all of these people had stopped and gotten out of their cars and they were going in real close to take pictures. And we know that the mama bear is not that far away. And I said to my wife and the other guests that were with us, I want to get around this experience as quickly as I can, because I know when Mama Bear comes out, it's going to be utter chaos. And so, we want to go into that protector mode, and I think it's part of our human nature. And so our first interactive activity for today is I am asking you to remember a fearless quality that expresses your mother, and perhaps using one or two words. Place it in the Zoom chat, and also here in the center, write it on the paper that is provided. One or two words that express a fearless quality that you may remember about your mother. And there's a slide on our screen to serve as a prompt. And we'll take just about a minute to do that. And so I don't see any activity in our Zoom room. Here's one. Great. So the messages that are coming through in Zoom are resolve and brave, determination. And let's hear from someone in the sanctuary. You can just speak it out. Speak it out.
She had stage presence.
Someone else. All right. All right. So you get the idea. You get the idea. Great. Yeah. And so from a science of mind perspective, from a spiritual perspective related to fear, the way to overcome fear is through faith. Faith is the mental equivalent of fear on the opposite side of the spectrum. And so instead of allowing fear to paralyze or to deter us from accomplishing our intentions, we stretch and grow. Each time I see that expression or use it, I think of a rubber band. Rubber band allows us to stretch, and it expands because in our growth, there is both expansion and contraction. And so we stretch and grow and we expand given the proper tools and the support to move through our fears with faith. We're moving together with fear and faith. We use the expression, feel the fear and do it anyway. And we can apply that to other life experiences. We can feel the love and do it anyway. We can feel the joy and do it anyway. We can feel the beauty and do it anyway. We can feel the sadness and do it anyway. The characteristics of fear and faith are the same. They each anticipate an outcome that has not yet happened. However, there are different emotions involved with fear and faith. Faith empowers action and includes fear. Faith empowers action and it includes fear. Over time, with spiritual maturity, fear diminishes and faith increases, even as new fears arise and are conquered. Fear causes more fear and tends to draw out the worst in us. Have you ever found yourself in a situation where there were insecurities that came up that you didn't even know that you had? This is frequently described as flee or fight or flee, flee or fight, whichever you choose. It's another way of saying, get me out of this by any means necessary. We tend to assign meaning to things and experiences based on our insecurities. We talk ourselves into believing that these experiences are true because we are fearful and doubtful. The acronym, false evidence appearing real, coined by Susan Jeffers, plays out as our insecurities. We become anxious and upset because the fears continue to mount, sometimes making a mountain out of a molehill, as the expression goes. Ernest Holmes writes this in our Science of Mind textbook. Faith is the antithesis of fear. Fear is the antithesis of faith. Like faith, fear may be conscious or subjective. And if it is to be eliminated, it must be removed both consciously and subjectively. And this leads us to our second interactive activity. I hope you're getting the gist of this. Remember an experience of insecurity based on a false premise, and your mother guided you through that experience using a fear to faith quality. Again, using one or two words, think about an insecurity that you faced based on a false premise, and how it is that your mother guided you from fear to faith during your experience of that process. And we'll take another moment or two to allow you to so let's see some more in the chat. While we're waiting for our family in the Zoom room, let's hear from the congregation. Anything come up for you? We're all in deep thought. You can always make a note of that and come back to it. We jump off the cliff of faith. When we think of jumping off a cliff, we typically think of crashing due to gravity. However, jumping off the metaphorical cliff of faith is where healing happens, where infinite possibilities are discovered. And we learn that we can actually fly. As our opening song says, we rise in God, we fly in God, we grow in God, we glow in God. Here's the key though. Jumping off the cliff of faith requires courage and bringing any fear along for the ride. You know, this is not an experience where we get to totally leave the fear behind. You know, fear and anger often get a bad rap because they're quite often equated with something that is negative rather than something that is positive. But fear and faith both play a role in our survival as a species. And so this is why we bring fear along for the ride. And we are encouraged to witness our faith that strengthens our confidence building because faith is cumulative. Carolyn Miss offers this in Intimate Conversations with the Divine. Surrendering our problems to faith, surrendering our problems in faith to the divine is not crazy. It's cosmic liberation. Set your soul free. Pray like you have nothing to lose except your fear. And so our third interactive activity for this morning is to recall or remember an experience when your mother reassured you it was okay to jump off the cliff because that scary monster who you thought was harmless, because that scary monster you thought was harmless and is not real as it seemed to be. As you're thinking about that, I have a little story to share. A colleague shared this experience that they had as a new student to this teaching. And they had gone to their practitioner and had said to the practitioner, you know, I'm really going through some terrible times, you know, and there's a boogeyman under my bed. There's a boogeyman under my bed, and there's a shadow and a ghost at the door that won't let me out. And the practitioner, being very confident and very steeped in their awareness of these spiritual practices, allowed the person to finish their tirade about all of their fear and how they were consumed by this fear. And they simply said, there is no boogeyman, there is no shadow. Get up, keep moving, do what it is that you're called to do. And so we can allow that to be our inspiration for jumping off this proverbial cliff, knowing that as I jump, God is either going to give me wings to fly or I'm going to land on terra firma. The fear factor. Fear involves taking risk. Some people demonstrate more or less of a risk appetite than others. Some are more risk takers when fear is present, and others are more daring and prone to take risks despite being afraid. And I thought about one of my great-granddaughters who is absolutely fearless. This child will do anything one time. And she is so much like her dad. It's like my grandson just reincarnated himself into one of his daughters. And it's like, we no longer ask her why she did something. We just look and say, "You did that?" She says, "Yes." Very, very proud. This is what I did. To have that type of a risk attitude and that freedom of expression is something, unfortunately, that we get trained out of. And so I'm delighted to see that she is still nurturing this aspect of her life. There is no right or wrong way that we develop our individual comfort levels in life. These change over time, and they're changing all the time. Getting back to our illustration of a rubber band, we stretch and grow in certain areas, and then something comes along and we may retract a little bit. And yet with our faith, we keep moving through, we keep pushing through those seeming obstacles, and we learn to stretch and expand our capacities. And so no matter which end of the spectrum you may find yourself on, or somewhere in between, fear usually requires being vulnerable, taking an honest look underneath a situation, getting below the situation and looking up at it, and telling the truth to ourselves. This is the key, to tell the truth to ourselves. Being vulnerable when exploring the fear factor is what sets us on the path to freedom. We engage our spiritual practices to support us along this journey, no matter what the root cause of our fears. Ernest Holmes writes this in Living Without Fear. From time immemorial, it has been almost instinctive for a person, when confronted with fear, to turn to what they have considered a power greater than their self. So in those moments of doubt and fear, we turn to that power that is greater than we are ourselves. And this leads us to our final interactive activity for the morning, and that is to remember what you learned about taking risk from your mother. Do this in 1 or 2 words, something you remember or recall about taking a risk that you learned from your mother. And so in conclusion, our response to the fear factor allows us to see how it drives our behaviors in the various ways that it shows up. We call forth our faith along with our fears, and we jump off the cliff of faith and move forth in life despite our fears. As we feel the fear and do it anyway, we exercise courage, faith, and trust. And as we pursue healing and the manifestation of our intentions, we seek freedom from fear as we turn our attention to faith. And this leads us to our personal practical application for the week. And that is to have an awareness, be aware of what it is to conquer our fears, whether they be on the surface or buried deep within. With courage, compassion, and faith, I ask my inner guidance to reveal the ways I hold myself accountable to stretch and grow in processing my emotions of fear. And I invite you to journal what emerges out of that. And now let us say together our affirmation for the week. I face my fears through courage, strength, and faith. Let us pray together. Moving into this idea of oneness, oneness with all life, oneness with everything that there is. We move through the experiences of faith and fear, knowing that these two operate hand in hand. Through our spiritual practices, we are buoyed up, we are lifted up, we are inspired to be, first of all, compassionate with ourselves and compassionate with one another. We allow ourselves to jump off the proverbial cliff, knowing that God's got my back. God's got my front, God's got my sides. God's just got all of me because I am an individualized expression of this pure essence. And so blessing our time together this morning, blessing the ideas that may have been inspired to remember Mother in a special way, to remember that love, to remember that nurturing, and to recognize that even through the fears that Mother had, there was that fearlessness that inspired and propelled Mother into action to be the very best that Mother had to offer to me and to all who were inspired by the Mother presence. Each one of us has a unique relationship with our mother. However we choose to recall it, we can always rewrite the script to have it be something that is joyful and uplifting. For it is in love that we are created, and it is out of love that we grow and expand in this consciousness of the oneness of truth. Blessing places where people are gathering in the name of the one, however that name is defined, recognizing that all paths contain the truth and the essence of this idea that God is absolutely all that there is. Blessing each one who is experiencing a transition in their life, however that transition may be showing up, knowing that through faith, moving from fear into faith, everything is always working out for the highest and best of everyone is concerned. So in gratitude for all that there is in this marvelous life, I release this word back into the law, which always says yes, just allowing it to be so. And I invite you to affirm it with me as we say together, and so it is, and so it is. I want to, maybe we can do a camera span on our floral arrangements. Remember I said it would be nice if we had an abundance of flowers? And look what God delivered. And so I want to acknowledge the display on top is from, the hydrangeas are from the garden of Lyle and Reverend Ann Young. The calla lilies are from the garden of Bobby Hall. This beautiful floral display is from practitioner Woody Camacho. And the roses are from me. They just called my name yesterday Friday when I was at the farmer's market. And so after service, each mother is invited to come forward and take a rose if you would like a rose or another flower. And then I'm going to ask that we allow the mothers to come first, and then everyone else is invited to take something home and place it in your space so that we enjoy the beauty of life. And now it is our opportunity to share in the giving aspect of life. We sincerely appreciate the way that you continue to support our spiritual community through your tithes and your offerings. And we tithe back into our larger community, 10% of our income. And as promised in this week's newsletter, we have identified our tithing partners for the first 3 months of the year. And we will do this for you on a quarterly basis as soon as our books close and we have all of the information. And so let us say together our affirmation of abundance. I recognize the presence of God within as a source of my abundance. Out of my abundance consciousness flows everything I could desire in life. With gratitude and thanksgiving, I now participate in the flow of uninterrupted abundance. This prosperous experience is evidence of my abundance consciousness. And on our screen, for those who are joining us virtually, are the ways that you may contribute to the center. You may mail in your donations, and the address is on the screen. You may text to give, that number is on your screen. And you may also use our secure website, and that information is on our screen. And so we say thank you and happy Mother's Day to our family that is joining us virtually, and we invite you to come back next week where we are continuing our May theme, which is emotions, and our talk will be if you're happy and you know it. If you're happy and you know it. And that reminds me, I'll weave it in some kind of way, that reminds me of a little song that we used to teach the children in junior church. If you're happy and you know it, clap your hands. If you're happy and you know it, clap your hands. If you're happy and you know it, then your life will surely show it. If you're happy and you know it, clap your hands. And then there's other verses that we add on, so we can have fun with that. Yeah, life is about having fun. Sometimes we get too stuck in being solemn and being spiritual or being holy or whatever it is. So let's enjoy life. And so we say, God bless you to our virtual family. We love you, we appreciate you, and we will see you when you join us next time.